Okay.
So you were just telling us about the way radiation affects oxygen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we live in radiation field. It's not ionizing radiation like you get from plutonium or something like you normally associate with. It's like light is a radiation field, and infrared and ultraviolet, and we're very used to that coming from the sun.
Okay.
But actually, there's something else we actually live in as well, and it's a resonance that occurs between the Earth's crust and the beginning of the ionosphere.
Right.
And it's called a Schumann resonance, which is about 7.83 hertz. And that resonance is also necessary to live a good quality life.
Right.
And they found that when they first sent astronauts up into space, and they were living outside of the ozone sort of diameter, and they started to get ill because they didn't have that frequency around.
Okay.
So when they found that out, they decided that they'd create that artificially in their environment.
Right.
So everybody's all right again. So that's radiation. So, but we're living now in radiation fields which are, a bit unusual. We benefit from them in many ways, from the technology we've got with various Wi-Fi signals and wireless and television. But in days gone by, there was none of that.
Okay.
And the point you might need to, and do look this up, don't just take my word for it. When new frequencies generally get introduced to the population, then there's often some sort of new disease that comes with it. So, for instance, everybody may be familiar with the 1918 flu. I think it's called, is that the Spanish flu?
Yes, Spanish.
It's nothing to do with Spain, but that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Now, that was actually coincided with the introduction of wireless technologies and wireless frequencies.
Okay.
Later on,
So that's the radio you're talking about. You're not talking about internet.
No, radio, proper
yeah.
radio,
Yeah.
wireless. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so because people be confused.
Like the light
yeah.
service and whatever. And then later, towards the war, there was the radar came, and they got a new sort of flu. So usually, whenever there's a new form, a new frequency that we're being subjected to, there's a new disease associated with it. So you can maybe imagine what sort of new frequencies are being developed now, and we're starting to see them being introduced quite broadly. Like Wuhan, for instance, was the first city in China that had got these sorts of new Wi-Fi frequencies introduced, as indeed was the ship that had people who were suffering with a virus. So it needs to be looked at seriously. That's a possibility by which some of the toxins in our cells actually get tipped into coming out.
Can you explain just what they actually do to the oxygen that we're...
Okay. Right, well, for those of you who are not familiar with spectroscopic techniques, what that's all about is shining radiation, electromagnetic radiation, at different frequencies into, let's say, a molecule chemical system. And there are ultraviolet, infrared, microwave spectrometers. So you would shine a beam at a certain frequency or ray frequency range into a molecule, and you can measure what comes out. Sometimes a molecule would absorb strongly at a certain frequency, and you can see that with infrared. That's how you determine sometimes what a chemical is by using that technique.
What's present?
Yeah, what's present there.
Yeah.
Well, oxygen is a molecule, and it just so happens that oxygen itself, if you look at the microwave absorption into oxygen molecules, it's 98% absorbed at a frequency of 60 gigahertz. Okay. So, for instance, if that frequency was one that got introduced into a population, then you would expect, because the oxygen molecule is being changed into something else because it's absorbed all that energy. It's not changing from oxygen to nitrogen, but the actual electronic structure in the molecule is changing.
Okay.
Then that affects the way the oxygen can be absorbed in the hemoglobin in the red blood cells. So you might expect breathing changes if that were happening, say, with a new radiation field.
Okay.